It is London, 1895. The temperature is dropping, and a 6-year-old boy named Charlie Chaplin sits on a street corner. He is shivering, he hasn't eaten, and his father has abandoned the family entirely. His mother, Hannah, tried to keep them afloat by singing in small local theaters, but when severe illness destroyed her vocal cords, the family lost their only revenue stream. Eventually, her mental and physical health broke down completely. The state intervened, dragging her away to a hospital and leaving Charlie and his older brother effectively orphaned. The government tossed the boys into a workhouse, a brutal, institutional facility designed to warehouse poor children. The beds were hard wooden planks, the rooms were freezing, and the boys were forced into exhausting physical labor, scrubbing floors and washing heavy laundry on starvation rations. But inside this daily misery, Charlie noticed something strange. When the other boys were completely consumed by sadness, he would stiffen his legs, contort his face, and walk around the room in ridiculous, exaggerated strides. He told jokes, he took falls, and it worked. For a few brief moments, the boys around him laughed, completely forgetting the hunger gnawing at their stomachs. In the darkest environment imaginable, Chaplin discovered a superpower. Physical comedy offered a powerful, visceral antidote to human suffering. 8 years later, a 14-year-old Charlie stepped inside a worn local theater. His hands were shaking, but he was desperate for a job. When the manager asked him if he could act, Charlie didn't recite lines. He simply dropped his shoulders and hobbled like a frail old man. Then his body went loose, swaying and stumbling like a local drunk, before collapsing into a perfectly timed fall. The manager hired him on the spot. He spent the next several years grinding through cheap hotels and exhausted train rides with a touring comedy troupe. Performing up to 3 shows a day, he systematically refined his physical timing. He learned exactly how to hold a pose or trip over a prop, proving to himself that the human body can communicate an idea far faster than spoken dialogue. By 1910, an American theater company recruited him for a national tour. Standing on the deck of a massive ocean liner, looking out at the Atlantic, Chaplin felt incredibly small and deeply terrified. But he also knew the math of his situation. America was massive, loud, and filled with diverse immigrants. It was the perfect blank canvas for a performer whose wordless, physical storytelling bypassed language barriers entirely. Chaplin's precise physical control quickly caught the attention of Mack Sennett, a pioneer of early film comedy. In 1913, Sennett lured him to Los Angeles with an astonishing contract of $150 a week, more money than the street urchins had ever seen. But moving to the screen presented an immediate technical hurdle. On a traditional stage, an actor has to project. You make massive, sweeping physical gestures so the audience in the back row can understand your intent. Film cameras operate on different physics. When the lens pushes in close, those big theatrical movements look grotesque and fake. Chaplin had to unlearn years of stage habits and figure out how to act small and natural. His solution arrived in a rush. On set one afternoon, a frustrated director gave Charlie exactly 30 minutes to go into the wardrobe room and invent a funny costume for the next scene. Left to his own devices, Chaplin began pulling items that violently contradicted each other. He grabbed a shrunken jacket, paired it with massive trousers, found oversized clown shoes, grabbed a miniature bowler shot, picked up a cane, and glued on a small mustache. He looked in the mirror, and a distinct persona stared back. This character was utterly broke, yet carried himself with the dignity of a wealthy aristocrat. He was sad, small, but fiercely brave. The Tramp was a direct visual avatar for Chaplin's own childhood poverty. Because the character embodied the universal struggle to maintain dignity while fighting to survive, audiences around the world immediately bonded with him. Within 2 years, Chaplin's popularity allowed him to command $1,250 a week. He used this massive influx of cash to stop being a hired hand. He began directing his own films, taking absolute control over the scripts, the casting, and the placement of every single camera. By 1919, he executed a ruthless business maneuver. Along with massive stars like Mary Pickford, Douglas Fairbanks, and D.W. Griffith, he co-founded United Artists. By building their own studio, they completely bypassed the executives who controlled Hollywood's money and distribution. With his own money on the line and total creative freedom, Chaplin began weaving deep emotional loss directly into his slapstick. He aimed to move his audience to tears, using the vulnerability of the tramp to explore the human condition. He spent over a year meticulously crafting the 1925 masterpiece, The Gold Rush. In one iconic sequence, the tramp is trapped in an Alaskan cabin, starving to death. Chaplin mines comedy out of this very real threat by boiling his own shoe and eating the laces like a plate of fine spaghetti. Even when the industry rapidly adopted synchronized sound, Chaplin dug his heels in. In 1931, he released City Lights as a completely silent picture. He understood that a human face conveying grief or love transcends spoken language, and the film was a massive emotional triumph. By seizing absolute control over his business and his creative process, Chaplin proved that cinema was capable of being profound art, demanding to be taken seriously. By the fall of 1940, the former starving boy from London was the most famous and powerful artist in Hollywood, and he decided to point his cultural influence directly at the rising threat of fascism. Before America officially entered World War II, Chaplin financed and starred in The Great Dictator. It was an incredibly dangerous project that directly mocked Adolf Hitler, with Chaplin playing both a persecuted Jewish barber and a cruel tyrant. The climax of the film shatters expectations. For the first time on screen, Chaplin drops the comedy entirely. He looks straight into the lens and delivers a passionate, unblinking speech, pleading for global humanity, kindness, and democratic freedom. The political retaliation was brutal. Powerful figures claimed the film was too political. The FBI opened investigations into his personal life. Newspapers branded him a traitor, and rumors spread rapidly that he was an anti-American communist. The government waited for an opening, and in 1952 they found one. While Chaplin was traveling abroad, the United States revoked his re-entry visa. Deeply betrayed and angry, he relocated his family to Switzerland, living the rest of his active career in forced exile. It is a dark historical irony. The artist, who spent decades uniting the entire world in silence, was banished from his adopted home the exact moment he chose to use his voice to tell the truth. It would take 20 years for the political ice to thaw. In April of 1972, the Academy Awards planned a special ceremony, and an 83-year-old Charlie Chaplin finally returned to American soil. As his frail, white-haired frame stepped out onto the stage, the entire room rose to their feet. For 12 uninterrupted minutes, the crowd applauded, and many wept. The political anger of the 1950s evaporated, leaving only overwhelming gratitude for the joy he had given them. He passed away peacefully on Christmas Day in 1977, leaving behind a character recognized in every corner of the globe and a catalog of film that still serves as a masterclass in visual storytelling. Charlie Chaplin took the cold, starvation, and crushing abandonment of his youth and alchemized them into a universal art. He demonstrated that human suffering can be transformed into a profound legacy that continues to bring light to the world.